Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook show. It is Friday. We have 6 games here on the main slate. I had the playbook for all of you guys out there nice and early because, as we kind of talked about last night, this morning, pre-show, another slate where most of the injury news is kind of already out there for us here. We are waiting on a few notable players here, but for the most part, this slate is relatively straightforward. So had a pretty good idea on how I wanted these playbooks to be built out today. Lineup construction, kind of already have my base set up for this. So I'm feeling pretty good about this one. How you feeling, man?
Good. I also have my lineup. Last night I multi-entered. Tonight, single entry. I have already built my lineup for tonight. And I probably not going to change it just based on, like you said, there's already been basically the news that we've needed, unless there's something in terms of 8 p.m. Miami plays. They're on the second leg of a back-to-back.
Right.
We don't, obviously, Anthony Edwards after, but that dude plays through everything. There's no way he comes back last night, 20 seconds into the game. If his ankle went completely the wrong direction.
Jumps out of the stadium. He said it's the highest he's ever jumped.
Dude. After 40 minutes, and a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
And he jumped higher than he's ever jumped in his whole life. Are you what how give me one.
He wanted to be a football player. So
he did. Yeah. Dude, I've almost maintained the thought. This thought has never left my mind, even as Anthony Edwards has ascended to what he's become, that he's going to be the first, because he just seems like I'm going to be the best at he's done an interview where he's like, whatever I do, I'd be the best at it. Baseball, he literally was like ping pong. It doesn't matter.
Can you believe him,
that
right?
interview. Yeah. And I don't know, what if he wins a championship, wins an MVP, he's just screw it, let's go play football.
He just all right, Sanders it sort of, goes to NFL, NBA, or NFL.
We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that, right? We haven't seen NFL, NBA. We've only seen the NBA, or we've only seen
he's 6'4" with a 7-foot wingspan. That's huge for an NFL wide receiver. He would give people problems. I'm sure he's fast. So no, I agree with you, man. I no doubt about it here. We appreciate you all in the chat here. Des, Coach Chris says it's his final day of DFS because he's got
North Carolina, dude. He's
Sport
got it.
Hamlin's live in the NC here. Was it come Monday? I think it is.
Monday.
So,
yep. Monday.
Chris, hopefully you still pop in, say hi to us when we go live here. You can check out our betting if you can do it. We got our guy Iggy Gilbert out here. That dude is a menace with the NBA pick. So if you're not already a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, Chris, go sign up and go check out Iggy's NBA best bets articles that he puts out there every day. Appreciate Des being in here and our guy Cam the Man also popping in. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. James and I here with you breaking down tonight's 6-game main slate as we talked about. Really the 2 big names that are going to alter the slate if they're in or out. It's going to be Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards. Rest of the guys here that are currently questionable, not really game changers. So if you get any sort of late news on a big player, we'll obviously have that here for you guys over the next hour or so. But kind of just jumping into this slate, looking at some of the matchups and game stacks here. We also obviously have ownership out available on site for this slate. I'll say I'm not surprised to see where the ownership is on this slate. I don't know if you checked out the latest update that came through.
I'm updating right now as we speak.
Yeah. So not shocked, right? When we talked about it last night, there was a couple obvious matchups for us that we were taking a look at, especially some of the players there. So we'll run all of that down for you guys here. Well, James gets that updated and loaded to site. New Orleans, Philadelphia, Philly at home getting 7.5, 221.5 game total there. We have Charlotte versus Washington. That game there, 226.5 game total. The Wizards are giving 2.5 at home. Minnesota, Cleveland. Cleveland's giving 2.5. That's a 206 total. Orlando, New York. Knicks are getting 2 at home. That's a 204 total in that one. Atlanta, Memphis. Memphis getting 3, 215 total. Miami, OKC is our late game on this slate. Thunder giving 8.5. 224.5 total on that one. We don't have the 10 p.m. games on the main slate, so unfortunately, you got to go play some showdowns if you want Milwaukee versus the Lakers and the Rockets versus the Blazers here tonight. This morning when I did, we did the pre-show and I wrote the playbook, I was like, you know what, Charlotte, Washington's probably where I'm going to go to stack today for some game stacks. Ownership's right there with me. Pretty much Charlotte, Washington is going to get a lot of the love here on this 6-game main slate. 6 games, smaller player pool. So, the players that we're all kind of in on, a lot of people are. So finding ways to be different could be certainly a way to go. Being different tonight means playing SGA. SGA is around 10% rostered here this evening. There's plenty of value to get to SGA. He's the only guy up above 10K healthy for this slate as well on DraftKings. He gave you 70 fantasy points a couple nights ago. If you want to go at it and be different tonight, we talk about it a lot, right? We did it with Luka the other day when he was like 20%. Slate breakers with low ownership on small slates. That's how you be different. SGA tonight fits that bill.
And Luka last night, for that matter.
Right.
Like, obviously, I guess the difference between last night is we had like 5 60-point scorers where like Jaylen Brown was 1%, went for 70.
Yeah.
And
Emmanuel quickly last night.
Quickly went nuts.
Cade.
And dude, Vassell, Cade, like there was, so like Luka still went nuts at low ownership but on nights where you have those like 60 fantasy point scorers, it's
huge difference on FanDuel. You and I talk about that. Obviously, we've been playing a little bit more on FanDuel lately. Luka only going for like 63 fantasy points last night, not nearly the separator he could have been on DraftKings when he's going for 80. So definitely slate dependent. We talk about that a lot, but focusing in on DraftKings here tonight, if SGA goes for 70, on this slate, honestly, there's not really another guy that I would say like 70s in his bag. Maybe Jaren Jackson if he goes out there and blocks like 7 shots tonight. But like, I don't know. Is there another guy on this slate that you think like, all right, I could see 70 coming from him tonight?
Miles Bridges?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe Bridges if he gives you the big double-double here. But like, there's not a lot, right? Bam if he gives you the triple-double. And Butler, right? Like
Edwards if he plays.
Edwards if he plays for sure. And like Brunson if he was the player, right? Could go score 40 actual, potentially. Probably not against Orlando, but like, has sort of that type of ceiling here. So SGA for me really is a separator. And if you're getting him at like no ownership on a small slate, like I could see reasoning to get to him tonight just to be different from the field. Agreed. After that, you got DeJounte Murray, Jalen Brunson. Again, we don't know the Brunson status. 9,500, Murray 92. In terms of top price guards here tonight, then it dumps down Garland to 76. Other guys in the 6K range. I didn't really play much of Murray or Brunson tonight. I don't really have much interest going there because, there is a lot of good mid-tier and value plays at the point guard position.
Yeah, I mean, you can always play them, but I largely agree. I don't know what Murray hasn't really flashed the ceiling. Now, not to say he can't, but
51, right?
Yeah,
like 57.
He went for 60, I think, twice this year. I remember earlier in the year he did. That was when I was like constantly berating everyone with my Trey propaganda. Like, stop playing Murray, just play Trey. Trey's gonna eventually go off, and they're not this close in price. And he went for 60, I think, on night. Probably I was yelling.
I missed the DeJounte we had in San Antonio when he was giving us more defensive stats.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't. I don't know. There's just been something with this Atlanta fit that just hasn't. I mean, you would think like Atlanta was 2 years removed, 3 years removed from the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And then they trade 3 first-round picks for DeJounte, and they're like, hey, we just like, dude, we're like that piece away, and it just hasn't worked. I don't think it's a Quinn Snyder thing because I think highly of Quinn Snyder as a coach, but he just maybe is not as engaged. Maybe just schemes are different than like what he was able to do with Popovich and stuff. But I don't disagree. Also, like the peripheral version of DeJounte Murray that we've gotten without Trae Young was the peripheral version we got every single night in San Antonio, right? We were like, oh, 20-point triple-double is like on the table for DeJounte, where like that's not the case when Trae is healthy. 9,200 is a good price, just an insanely paced down spot. And I think when it comes to Atlanta, you can see it with the field. The prioritization is like the ancillary pieces around him, right? So,
And then, of course, getting chalk Triple J.
it is. It's. I tweeted that earlier. I mean, it's true because we've, we all know the Jaren Jackson story by now. It's not like the secret's out on Jaren Jackson. He seemingly is not going to change.
Nope.
The way he plays, which probably will hold him back long term if he doesn't. But I digress.
Going on into this mid-tier range, last night we kind of identified Vasily Micic as like our top play down here. Ownership is generally with us on this. I actually thought he would be higher rostered than he is. Only sitting there at around 20% here tonight. Do you think that's low? Do you think we see that actually come in more when slates actually come through here?
I do. I also think that's Trey Mann dependent as well.
Okay.
Because if Trey Mann's ruled out, then they just simply don't have the body.
Sure.
Like you'll see, I think in that scenario, you see mid-30s minutes for Micic. So
okay.
If Mann's ruled out, then yeah, I think we likely see Micic 2x that ownership. He might end up just being. I think you said it on the pre-show that you thought he was going to be the highest owned player.
I did.
I would say that would be the case with Trey Mann out.
Okay. Because he got decent ownership the other day as well. Once he was put into the starting lineup and he was 5K. I mean, what are your thoughts here?
Who, Micic?
Yeah. Like, do you think that we actually? I know you mentioned that, but like, I thought it was. I think it's low. I think we're going to be surprised even if Mann comes in because Micic was a little bit higher roster before that.
I'm not surprised, the famous Nate Diaz, right? Yeah. I like Micic quite a bit, whether Mann's in or out. I mean, this is a massive pace-up spot for Charlotte, and Washington's dead last in defensive rating. So
it's kind of where I'm at with it. Anybody else down here? I mean, Lowry is obviously in this spot. Man, if he was to be ruled in. Payne started the other day next to Lowry. You have Goodwin, we think should play tonight. Right?
You see the field? It's come down a little bit. Do you see the field's playing Jordan Goodwin tonight, 15%. And I think so. Again, he's not on the. I looked earlier when I was going through the injury report stuff, and he's not listed. At least he wasn't. Let's see. 4:30 injury report. Jordan Goodwin, Memphis is not listed. He also was only listed that one game and then straight DMP'd the other day. He has, I think, 12 games remaining of flexibility for like Memphis to use, right? Because that's like you have X amount of games on the two-way deal, and you've seen that a couple times. I remember specifically the Spurs were doing that with Dominic Barlow. I don't know if you remember that, where unless Zach Collins was out, Barlow was just DMPing, so they didn't waste his eligibility. With Luke Kennard doubtful, the field is, I think, onto this. I think Goodwin likely re-enters the starting lineup here. I guess in that scenario, though, like in a scenario he's starting, he's basically penciled in for 30 minutes. I think, and you can roster him. It's a great spot, but if he's not starting, John, like you just can't play him, right? You just can't play him.
So.
And how about this scenario? And we can move on because they're both point guard, shooting guard. If Trey Mann's out and Goodwin's starting, who do you prefer, Micic or Goodwin?
Yeah, I think I play Micic. I think I play Micic either way. I think he's a better player.
I don't disagree. I mean, he has a very long history of like EuroLeague basketball.
Yeah, and like he's finally getting some more run, and you're seeing the shooting numbers be there. He can obviously fill it out. 3 straight games with 2 steals. I mean,
did you see? I don't know if you saw this, and I don't know if this is any indication of what's to come. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. The prop markets have his assists at like 7.5 tonight, which I found.
I mean, it could be a no man situation, right?
He hasn't accepted. I mean,
there'd be a spot for you to potentially make some money tonight if you think that Man's going to play. You just take the under.
Yep.
and see how that goes. But I mean, he played 36 minutes, 29, 28. Like if these were competitive games against Orlando, he probably plays 35 again.
Yep.
I think Mičić is in my lineup no matter what here tonight.
Great.
And I'm actually happier, honestly, if he does come in around 20% on a 6-game slate, because then I feel like I'm actually getting a little more of an edge on that play. Moving on over to shooting guard here again, we got to see the Anthony Edwards news. We'll see. Not a great spot for him. Traveling, second day of a back-to-back. A couple of injuries he suffered last night, but he's there, 9K. Ingram's at 79. If there's no Jalen Brunson, obviously no DDV is going to take a whole bunch of shots. Again, Orlando is not an easy matchup for the Knicks here this evening. Then you go back to like Charlotte, Memphis guys, like Brandon Miller's here, Vince Williams, two guys that people are going to be looking to play. Bogdan at 64, Oubre, Levert. Jordan Poole's a cover of my playbook today. He's 6K, so a lot of mid-tier options for us.
Yeah, Chris, put that in the air for all of us, okay? We're all going off tonight, okay? We're all going off. Yeah, I mean, and is obviously, I don't really care about the matchup. If you're going to tell me that Anthony Edwards is going to take 30 shots again, then I'm good with getting there despite the Cleveland matchup. Like, he's going to, Isaac Okoro defense looming. Like, I think we all could see that from a mile away. But, man, if he's going to be active, which I have to assume he's gonna, because he plays through seemingly everything, then I'm good getting to Edwards. You pointed it out last night, like the Ingram price is incredibly interesting. Because he's not sub 8K. And really the only reason he's sub 8K is because they're blowing everybody out and he hasn't had to play big minutes. Maybe the Philly keeps it competitive because they're home, but like New Orleans is just always in blowouts, dude. They are the hardest team to predict because they are so good and sometimes just so what is happening today all in the same breath. Brandon Miller, I think, is a great play in tournaments. Ups and downs of your rookie campaign, but he is clearly settled into like the third best rookie of the year, which is not a shot at all when you're in the same rookie class as Wemby and Chet. Essentially, Chet obviously has the little built-in advantage considering he last year should have been his rookie year, but the minutes for Miller are great. They're only going to be that and more if Trey Mann's out, just given what we know of Steve Clifford and his inability to trust other players.
Yeah.
And the matchup is obviously elite. I have found myself gravitating to the Poole play as well. I'm headed to the Poole party.
There you go.
Listen, you know what? Like, for all the jokes we can make about Jordan Poole this year, he just looks like the guy he was in Golden State coming off the bench. Whether he wants to be off the bench or not, whether he thinks he deserves to be starting or not, it doesn't matter because he's looked better off the bench basically now his entire career, outside of spot starts in Golden State, right? Where
Since moving to the bench, he's shooting almost 40% from three and 45% from the floor. So can't really argue with the production there. Again, we talk about it. Maybe he just gets him in a better flow, not having to play with someone like Kuzma or something like that. Or I mean, I'm sure he's still playing with Kuzma, but maybe just the rotations there. Plus an elite spot for him. And again, not shocked to see him among the highest rostered players here on the slate. Cover of my playbook. Working our way down, you mentioned Trey Murphy and how hot he's been. Obviously Philly, the Pelicans are favorites here. Are you concerned at all maybe about a blowout in this one?
I mean, it's definitely possible. Now, the line has moved to 1.5. I don't know what you make of that. It's opened at 9. It's down to 7.5. So, Philly getting 7.5 points compared to 9 is obviously a plus. The Trey Murphy thing doesn't really worry me about blowouts because he plays basically in blowouts. Like, they have wanted him to find his stroke because he had been struggling so bad. And boy, has he found it. I mentioned I have built lineups today. I currently have Trey Murphy in my lineup. He played 16 first half minutes in that Toronto game the other day, John. He had 3 different shifts, and this is for a guy coming off the bench. He had 3 different shifts. They're going to close with the Zion 5 lineup in competitive games, which makes sense because Philly doesn't really want to play Paul Reed or Mo Bamba anyway. So You're going to see a ton of Trey Murphy tonight. And if we get the 6 for 11, 6 for 12, 10 for 14 Trey Murphy, we're going to get a fourth broken slate in the last 5 games for Trey tonight.
Agreed. You pointed out the Giddey minutes to me this morning, last night, however show you want to look at it. 29 and 32 the last 2 games. He's been very efficient, but he continues to fill out the stat sheet. He's been a guy all season long that in his 20 to 22 minutes a night has been giving you around a fantasy point plus per minute. Gets Miami on the second leg of a back-to-back here. Are you buying into some Giddey stock tonight?
I was like trying to figure out why he was playing 29 to 32 minutes. The only absence they've had is Jalen Williams with a Y.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not a case of somebody missing. They're not really playing Kenrich in these games. Miami does go small, which obviously doesn't hurt Josh Giddey's case to stay on the floor. Like if Caleb Martin's at the 4 or Jimmy's at the 4, like that's good for Giddey because it's a lot of guards and wings on the floor. I wish he wasn't. Oh, actually, I guess his ownership has come down. He was like 20% our first run. He's down to 13.5%. I think Giddey is more of a multi-entry play. I don't think he's a single lineup player because just the volatility. And you've talked about it. Like he is a good fantasy producer regardless. Like if you get the floor minute Giddey game where he plays 18 to 19, like he can still get you there. It's just obviously that sucks, right? Like for when you're paying over 5K, you're like
you need 25 fantasy points for 5x. So.
Yeah, and like the minutes obviously are great the last 2 games, and take it for what it's worth. The minutes have obviously balanced out, but we talked about it earlier in the year. He was playing more at home, where he wasn't getting booed as much. Right. For specific reasons, alleged reasons. So, I think he's more of a multi-entry play. If you're building 10, 20, 150 lineups, like definitely have intrigue there. If I'm playing single entry tonight, I probably pass on Josh Giddey.
What would the ownership look like for NAW if Anthony Edwards gets ruled out tonight?
Pretty high. Because so they not only is Monty Morris out.
Yeah.
Jordan McLaughlin is questionable. So he already operated as the backup point guard last night for when Morris got hurt. Then you're talking about potential where he's starting at shooting guard and backing up point guard for Mike Conley, who's on the second leg of a back-to-back. He might not come off the floor.
Right.
I don't love 4,800 because, But if there's no Edwards, it's a very viable play.
Yeah.
But if there's no Edwards, I have a lot of interest in some front court plays that they might need to step up offensively.
Sure. Any other shooting yards for you here?
Not much. I guess, if you want to just play the game theory, Koulibaly's going to play 30 minutes probably.
Sure. Small forward here, dual positional eligibility for a lot of these guys. Some we've touched on, but you have Miles Bridges at $8,400. Again, one of my favorite plays here tonight. I thought that maybe he would go possibly a little overlooked because of the pricing, but he doesn't. He's around 20%. That Charlotte Washington game getting a lot of love. Good matchup for them. We talked about it. If they go Kuzma at the 5, which we're expecting them to go, we could see Charlotte then just play small ball when Charlotte was playing small without Nick Richards. A few games back there, we saw 10+ rebound upside on a good stretch of games there for Bridges, where we were really getting some ceiling games out of him. So definitely a big fan at $8,400. You could try going back to Jimmy Butler if you want. He burned us last night, unfortunately. Didn't get much going there until late in that game when he scored a couple for us there, but he's 82. Josh Hart's locked in for 40+ minutes here tonight, but he gets Orlando. Talk Ingram, DDV. What are your thoughts when it comes to small forward and the top half here?
I mean, Bridges is definitely the top play for me. He's coming off a terrible shooting night. It is what it is. But there's few players in the NBA playing more minutes than Miles Bridges, if anyone. Maybe DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan leads the league in minutes, but I wouldn't be surprised if 37.2 for Bridges led the league. I don't know if he qualifies, but he's played 51 games. So Bridges would be the top guy for me. I think I said those words, like quote. I said I think he's going to be overlooked because he's 8,400.
Yeah, I think we both agreed last
Yeah.
on the show this morning, and then it wasn't really the case.
No, it's not.
So people are definitely aware of what Miles Bridges could be in this matchup against Washington, which we should have known because we talked about it, right? The game total is low, but if this was November, this game total would have been like 250, right?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, because the unders have been coming in, we've been seeing less and less points scored in these games, where 224 is actually kind of high. So not too shocked there. Do you like Vince Williams? Are you willing to pay 8K on Josh Hart in a tough spot against Orlando? Like, what are your thoughts here?
I'd be willing to pay Josh Hart if Brunson's out. I think there's just a need for more from everybody. Like I've talked about it a couple times, and you mentioned it on the pod. Like they'll extend Bojan because they need offense, but they just don't take Hart off the floor, and he operates as kind of like your secondary ball handler too. I mean, look at the assist numbers. Half these games, Jalen Brunson's been out 6, 10, 7, 5, 6, 6 for Josh Hart. 2 triple doubles during this like insane minutes run. So I know it's a tough spot, but I would definitely have some interest in Josh Hart if Brunson's out. I'm not paying 8K for him if Brunson plays.
Okay.
Basically the same thing for DiVincenzo too, who I didn't really talk about as shooting guard, but it's the same basically the same thing.
Sure. Talked again. Vince Williams we're fans of. Denny's getting some love at 67. Yes. You have Karis LeVert at 61 down here as well. And then our current highest roster player on the slate is Saddiq Bey. We talked about this. No Jalen Johnson here. Bey's already playing a bunch of minutes, so like it's not like there's more minutes to go to him, but I guess there would be more potential shot attempts. You and I kind of like pivoting to somebody else though. Especially if Bey is going to be the highest rostered player on the slate. I'd rather go play DeAndre Hunter all the way down here at 5K.
Yeah, and like it's just pretty Trey Mann officially out, John. So there goes
Dimitric there.
And Wendell Carter available. He went through shooter on this one.
Interesting.
So Wendell Carter available, Trey Mann out. So those are our 2 latest pieces of news. Marvin Bagley out. Whoa, that's a new one. All right, so Gary Harris is your starting 2, so they'll probably start Anthony Black, I assume it's Fultz or Black, right? Because when it's Harris out, they don't need to start a point guard if they want to just start Suggs. Because they started who did they start the other day? They started
Houston?
No, they started Anthony Black.
Yeah,
right?
Black. Yeah.
They started Anthony Black. So I assume the starter would be Anthony Black or Markelle Fultz would be my guess, with Suggs being out. Not that Fultz. I feel like they're just honestly getting Fultz to the finish line at this point.
Sure.
Like, get to the playoffs and then we'll see. Or
would Cole Anthony be an interest to you now or no?
A little bit. Just again, I do like the minutes. 25 last game with Gary Harris out. Now there's no Suggs. Like, yeah,
sure.
Somewhat. 4,700 point guard, shooting guard. I don't remember him having shooting guard for a lot of this year either. I feel like it's been mostly point guard eligible only.
Yeah.
That Jalen Suggs news is definitely a little bit interesting because he's, he soaks up like 30 minutes a game. So
yeah, thigh injury out of nowhere, really. So
he's just a crazy person. Like he's just jumping on the floor, running into people, taking charges like 24/7. He's like Anthony Edwards, but he doesn't play through all the injuries.
Yeah. What's up, Anthony? Brunson's still currently questionable. I'm not seeing, at least for ownership, people high on Kyle Anderson. Yesterday they were. He burned everybody. No one's really in on Kyle Anderson in terms of rostership here tonight. More people are playing the Atlanta guys. So we mentioned Bayes there. Duncan Robinson coming off of a good night. You've talked Trey Murphy. We like both Laravia and Hunter here, though, as possible pivots off of Kyle Anderson. I really like DeAndre Hunter tonight. I think he gets over 30 minutes here, and he's $700 cheaper than the highest rostered player on the slate here. So now Hunter's still getting some love, but you're saving about 12% ownership here.
Right. Yeah, I think there's good leverage. And like Bay's been good. So has DeAndre. DeAndre Hunter's been awesome scoring the basketball.
Yeah.
And we've said it a bunch. Like, he was the starter earlier in the year. Sadiq Bey got benched for Jalen Johnson, essentially, right? Like,
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson took Sadiq Bey's job, and then Sadiq operated as your like sixth man, seventh man. I mean, him and Bo. I don't know. They have 7 guys, I guess, that
Sure.
could start technically. But like early in the year, DeAndre Hunter had like 40-minute games on his ledger. He had a 25-11 game in it. He's a very good offensive player. Yeah, you've been very high on DeAndre Hunter for like longer than anyone.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's a case to be made to pivot down. My only thing is, because Jalen Johnson's out, I assume he'll get extended. Do you think there's like a scenario where he's not playing into the 30s in minutes? Like, do you think instead of doing that, like, he starts?
I think so.
He's got like low 30s, like 32,
What else would their
33.
rotation look like, right?
Harrison,
Like,
well, because I mean, I would say they have like pretty good flexibility because you could play Bay Hunter right at the 4. So you could play Garrison Matthews. You could play Bogdan. I'm just saying, like, you could play Trent Forrest, who got like 15 minutes.
well, they're
last
already
game.
playing Bogdan over 30 minutes.
Right.
Here. So, like, I don't know. I guess maybe, but I don't see a reason why they wouldn't just play Hunter all 30 plus minutes. Here.
I would just say, like, I don't know if it's been because the knee. And that's why he's like kind of been limited a little bit,
I don't
it's
think
just
he's
like
been limited. I just think his
coming
role
off
is
the
the
bench.
sixth man.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of his spot there, right? The guards are the ones that keep getting injured. So Bogdan rather is the one that keeps getting plugged in. They finally have a forward out, so they, maybe this is an opportunity for Hunter to get in there. I'll just keep. I mean, you've been dead on it, and I've been a bit resistant, but give Isaac Okoro his love. I mean, 35 minutes, another 26 fantasy points. He hit all of his shots again. He actually missed his threes. Went 7 of 13 from the floor, but just 1 of 5 from 3. 17, 16, 17 actual the last 3 games, no Donovan Mitchell. So, sure. Blocks and steals again, sure.
He's a pivot off of Chalky Kispert.
Yep.
Who is essentially the same player with obviously a lower minutes floor, because we saw Kispert basically like get in foul trouble, but also like he's getting almost 2x Okoro's ownership tonight, and we don't know, like, he's gonna start, we think, right? No Shamit.
Yeah, and he should, unless they go Rashawn Holmes starting.
Yeah, unless they started Holmes, I don't see a scenario where Kispert doesn't start with Bagley and Shamit out again. But like, is there? I mean, after what Rashawn Holmes did last game, what if Rashawn Holmes comes in and does it again? Is there any guarantee we just see Corey Kispert? Like, there's not. But Okoro, with all these injuries, like,
yeah, he's playing,
right? So just saying, you want to talk about more leverage? Like, if you will, I was interested because this ownership on Kispert's new. This was not the first run ownership.
Right.
This is now 26% Corey Kispert. I get it. If you guys have listened to the show, I've touted Corey Kispert a bunch in the last month or so. And anytime he's been extended, he's been really good. But I don't know, man. 26% when you guarantee LeBron James ruled out for those playing on the late slate, by the way.
That's actually a killer for my underdog.
Yeah, your second round underdog team.
Damn.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Only up 50 points on the second place guy. He did some LeBron there.
Oh no.
Unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. Anthony Black, 3,500. If he starts.
Nah,
I don't think so either.
Georges Niang, though, 4K.
Georges, I know. I wasn't gonna bring Georges up. That's
okay.
I'll let you. Georges, Norm Powell. I keep away from those guys. Those are your guys.
Dude, I've touted Norm since day one.
No, those are your guys. I don't touch either of them. If you want to talk about Georges or Norm, I let you take the floor, and then we move on from there.
Let's talk about your guy. You mentioned Jaden McDaniels yesterday as a pivot off of Kyle Anderson. Jaden McDaniels goes out there 11, 8, and 6. Gives you 30 fantasy points. Do you think he goes out there and does it again here tonight at $4,500? Maybe no Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's not a
he's not a good fantasy
fantasy point per minute guy, but like he's scored at times. Like, he's not afraid to shoot. So
I think that Jaden McDaniels is a good basketball player that has had problems with foul trouble, has obviously had problems with the role that he's been in. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, what is he going to do on this team with Edwards and Towns, right? What if
Right.
there's no Edwards and Towns? Like,
Well,
if
that's what
you,
I'm saying, right? Like,
there were people, because Jaden McDaniels, for people that don't remember, was drafted in the same first round as Anthony Edwards by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And people said Jaden McDaniels is the better prospect, even though Edwards went number 1.
I think as a rookie, they said he's like the best defensive player in the NBA.
Best
right?
defensive player in the NBA, best defensive player in the NBA, higher upside than Anthony Edwards. Obviously, we've fast forward to now, that is not the case.
Sure.
But we're not closing the door on like what Jaden McDaniels can be.
Yeah.
But like, we don't know because he's playing behind two guys that one guy has 260 actual point games in his career. The other guy just jumped over a backboard on after playing 40 minutes and scoring 40
on a full
points.
court
Like,
sprint.
on a full court, like it's just it is what it is.
I agree. Listen, I'm just saying, like, if you're looking at what the minute say Edwards is out tonight, that starting lineup is going to look like Gobert, McDaniels, Anderson, NEW, Conley.
Oh my god!
I mean, that's not great.
Who's scoring? If you're
It's
Minnesota,
gonna be, I think it's NEW, but like it wouldn't shock me if all of a sudden McDaniels takes shots.
Agreed. Would you?
We could also see some sort of early sub pattern for Naz Reid.
I was gonna say, in that scenario, do they have to start Naz Reid?
I don't think they have to start Naz Reid because look at Cleveland's not going too big. They're going Georges.
I know.
Dean Wade or
they just don't.
Like,
well, they just like Naz in the role that he's in.
Yeah.
No matter what. I'm just saying, like, the offensive. Where's that offense from in that instance?
I mean, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I asked you about Conley the other day. I'm like, do you think Conley takes more shots? Like, well, he doesn't have to. I said, well, he might. he may have. He may have before. Like, I don't know. All right, let's move on over to power forward here. Apollo's 87. Again, I don't really have much exposure to Magic. Cole Anthony's another guy I like, so I think Cole Anthony could be someone that I could see myself maybe getting to now without Suggs. But Bridges is there to answer. Anthony, yes. Jaren Jackson Jr. is the cover of today's show.
Karen Jackson. No, Karen Jackson.
What did I say?
No. If you look at the message before,
Karen Jackson.
I like Anthony. We'll start calling him Karen Jackson if he gets in foul trouble. Every game he gets in foul trouble.
It's National Women's Day. Maybe Karen Jackson would have been his woman's name. We never know.
Maybe.
But yes, Triple J is one of our favorite plays of the day. Again, cover of the live stream that you clicked on to watch us. So we're in, right? 60 and 58 fantasy points the last two games, 29, 33, and 30 in 3 of the last 4. They got blown out, lost by Brooklyn in the competitive game against the Clippers, Minnesota, and Philadelphia. He went nuclear. So fully expecting a big day here out of Jaren Jackson Jr. here. So yes, definitely in on Jaren Jackson there. Good call by you last night, Anthony. DeMar DeRozan and the Bulls, man. They went through and they had themselves a day against Golden State. So
dude, I just this is like the worst season of all time for me as a Bulls fan.
Yeah, you're a Bulls fan, so you need them to lose, and they're out there going to Golden State and
they just beat good teams and lose to the Pistons. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's true. So yes, Jaren Jackson definitely in there. What's up, Cindric? A little Twitch King in the chat. Love that. Love getting Twitch guys in the chat with us here. So yes, Bridges, Jaren Jackson. Again, Jaren Jackson, one of our favorite plays. Kyle Kuzma, one of our favorite plays as well. Fortunately, you have on DraftKings the ability to play these guys all over the map. Power forward, center, forward, utility. Doubling them up for sure. Both are in really great spots here tonight. And then after that, again, there's Aldama, there's Naz Reid, Grant Williams, Sadiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, a lot of the guys we've kind of touched on already. With the dual positional eligibility of small forward, power forward, we there's not many unturned stones here.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzma and Jackson would be the two priorities for me at power forward.
Yep.
I think there's like a sneaky side to Tobias Harris, given what's out for Philly, but the Philly in general, like we didn't really talk Oubre, we didn't really talk Hield. Like you mentioned,
who gets Herb Jones defense?
Yeah, that's the problem. I think it's probably Toby. You can also see it if Oubre continues to play the way he's played. Like, hey Herb. Yeah. That dude is scoring.
Stop that guy from scoring.
Yeah, go stop that guy. And Herb's like, no problem, Willie. Right. So like sneaky side to Toby if he doesn't draw the Herb assignment, obviously. Also sneaky, I think, and it won't matter if Edwards is ruled out because if Edwards is ruled out, Naz Reid will be the first player I plug into my lineups. But they'll need his scoring. He took a billion shots last night in a game that he didn't really shoot well.
Only played 26 minutes. He was 15 shots in 26 minutes.
It was a little disappointing. But Cleveland, Dean Wade at power forward, Okoro Niang at power forward, like good spot for Nas to be on the floor in this game.
Agreed. But if he gets the rotations where like Jared Allen comes out too, I mean, like
yes.
Great.
Damian Jones center minutes.
Right.
I do think there's a sneaky side to Santi Aldama tonight. The minutes, I don't know if this was like injury related at all, like where he wasn't consistently playing 30 because he had been in and out of the lineup, but 30 minutes basically every night since the break, at least in competitive games. And he's a guy that when he's averaging over 30 minutes, he's been at like 16, 6, and 3 over the year. And I know some of those numbers are inflated because that random Boston game earlier in the year where he scored like 38 actual. And I literally was like, John, Santi Aldama is never going to score 38 actual in a game again. You're like, yes, he will. And I was like, no, he won't. Like, we love Santi, but like, I do think this is a great spot for Memphis. It's hard to like get to Memphis, but if there's no GG Jackson, that just kind of solidifies the minutes for Santi even more. So 6K for Santi Aldama is something that I am a little bit interested in. TBD, we could just pivot if no Edwards to read, but
sure.
I think Santi in tournaments, dude, Atlanta, like the total is so bad in this game because obviously Memphis is such a slow paced team, but like Memphis is getting the biggest pace up spot on the board amongst any team. And also Atlanta's 27th in defense. So I like Aldama quite a bit in tournaments tonight, especially if GG Jackson's out. I think the minutes are just completely solid for him.
Just because we're here.
Yeah, we are here.
What are we doing with Davis tonight?
What we're going to do is we're going to watch him take 10 threes, and we're going to see what happens from there. If they go in, then he has a chance again to be mid-20s fantasy production. He's just not doing a lot other than shooting threes, right? But Steve Clifford's going to play him mid-20s minutes. What do we got for the ownership on Bertans?
I can't imagine it's
15, almost 15%.
That's more than I thought it was going to be.
Almost 15%. He's fine, right? I mean, would you rather play? Let me ask you this, Sean. Everything's status quo for Cleveland tonight. Would you rather play George's at 4K, or would you rather play Bertans at 4K?
I think I play George's because if he's starting, if neither are starting, I may lean Bertans.
Yeah, I mean the Bertans is like clearly has a better matchup
for sure. All right, center spot here again. Bam is 83. Where was it? Anthony wants to know, can we trust Chet tonight? I mean, Miami still plays the best defense against centers, so maybe. I mean, I like Bam tonight. He had a really good matchup against Chet. Chet's had some trouble against some of these more like physical centers. I think if you wanted to go Bam, you could. Again, I've plugged in Triple J at center, plugged in Kuzma at center tonight. Gobert's at $7,700. I don't really find a need to plug in much else at the position. Rashawn Holmes is getting love with some ownership there. We know Grant Williams will play. On FanDuel, your number one rostered player is Bruno Fernando. So,
dude, I've been kind of on the fence between Fernando and Rashawn Holmes all day. And now, of course, their ownership is exactly the same on DraftKings, so I can't even like use that as leverage. I can't even be like, well, I'll just play the lower owned guy. No, I can't because they're the same ownership.
Right.
Dude, we've been waiting for the Clint Capella minutes. I just don't think that they're coming. Right? They're just not. They're just not. They are what they are. He played 23. 25 seems to be the max. He hasn't played more than 25 minutes since January 28th. Why are we expecting it to be any higher?
Right.
Fernando outplayed him last game. Fernando straight up played more minutes than Clint Capella last game. It is what it is. Like Bruno Fernando's 4,400, and I'm not saying he's gonna threaten a double-double again. I'm also not gonna say that if he's gonna play 25 minutes. So if there is another ownership shift where Rashawn Holmes on DraftKings were to like completely overthrow Fernando's ownership, I would strongly consider pivoting because you and I talked pretty extensively about Rashawn Holmes last night and how like the minutes could really be everywhere tonight.
Yeah.
I
His
feel
ownership
like
has dropped since the morning. He was at 25%. He's down to 16 now on DraftKings for Rashawn Holmes. So, and Jalen Brunson officially on track to play according to Thibodeau. So, you got that update for the
insert Tibbs laughing emoji.
Right. He's gonna play 45 minutes. So
he'll go through warmups. That's what Tibbs said. He'll go through warmups with the intention of playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Any other centers for you? Would you play Wendell Carter if active? 5300?
He's available.
Yeah. True. Well, do you think he plays? What version of Wendell Carter do we get? 29, 31 minutes or 22 minutes?
You're asking a question not even Jamal Mosley knows at this point.
That's true.
Jamal Mosley will be just play. He's Will Hardy of Eastern Conference, but with a much better team.
Agreed. I also like Jake LaRavia here. I know we didn't intentionally skip over him, or if we did touch on him, it was only briefly. But we're in LaRavia back-to-back double-doubles for our guys, so certainly in there. Hayward's minutes are ticking up, and I've been itching to play him. It's not a back-to-back, rather, but I don't know if today is the day for some Hayward.
I don't disagree on the minutes. He played 18 minutes last game. He scored 10, which is the most he's played. It's still one of those things where, like,
let me get him into the 20s first. And then
I truthfully think that they're not
3,300 is not a terrible price tag, but like they're
dude, he's not. I mean, look at the. I mean, there's not even like there's just not like signs of life, and I don't know if this is just them being like you cannot like you have been a glass house. We need you to safely get to the postseason,
right?
And we see. Because we assume, I think everyone assumes come postseason, all the Giddey minutes that are currently Giddey minutes are probably Hayward minutes eventually, like long term.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed. All right, let's build a lineup here. Go Jackson at center, Kuzma at power forward,
JP, Micic.
Yeah, Micic at
Jordan
Poole, Hunter.
All
right, it's 5,900 rest of the way here.
Love when a plan comes together, John. You know,
dude, that just plugged in super easy. Let's see. I'm okay. I'm okay going to Cora if you wanna test.
I was gonna say there is a ton of forward value. That's where we would go to the 4K forward range. That's like where everything is, dude. It's Niang, McDaniels. We didn't even mention Caleb Martin's been playing a lot, scoring more fantasy points per game. Concher realistically could still start. We have no idea what the Goodwin situation is going to be. Okoro, NAW. There's like LaRavia 4,800. There is not or 49. There's not a shortage of.
I don't really want to double up on.
No.
I don't want to double up on Cleveland. Where's we didn't talk. Would you do Jovic again after last night? Or are you done with him?
No. They're not gonna play him against OKC.
$9,500 for a guard.
I don't think we need that. I don't think we need the. I feel like we have like in the 6K tier, like if you didn't do Brunson Bertans, you could do like Trey Murphy or Karis LeVert or Kelly Oubre or something like that, and then we'll have like play like Murphy and then see what you got at the util spot. Like Gobert or Gobert
or how do we get Bridges? Probably can't.
Right? You go from
37. Did we have a 3K play? Oh.
Rich Homie Quan. Now this is a late swap, so I'm gonna ask you, Jaren Jackson and Rashawn Holmes, kindly switch their position eligibility.
Markel Fultz, if he starts, I guess we could pivot that to that as well.
Yeah, but like, are we sure?
Oh,
like,
Jalen with a Y is in today, eh?
Yeah, Jalen with a, which
So
is
that's a giddy, right?
Which is why I was saying like, that was the only player out where Giddey's like getting minutes, and I don't know if that's
not officially out yet. We did talk a little bit about Jaden McDaniels. I do think there's some potential for him if Edwards is out tonight.
Agreed. So just for context here, I was pulling up the data earlier, with Edwards and Towns off the floor.
Yeah.
Kyle Anderson gets an 8% usage bump. 8%. And I know nobody wants to play with Kyle Anderson. Also, just pointing out that he gets an 8% usage bump. You could do with that as you want, but he does receive a large usage bump. In terms of fantasy production, Gobert is the only player over a fantasy point per minute.
Could you Cole Anthony, and then if he gets ruled out, play NAW?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Could be a play.
Yep.
Example lineup for everybody. Mijic, Poole, Hunter, Kuzma, Jackson, Anthony, Bridges, and Martin. $100 left over for all of you here today. Playbook is out. Any news and updates that come through, we'll have that updated in there for you. Get any questions, find us in the Discord. Get us over on Twitter. Want to remind everybody of our Better Edge contest here for tonight. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen or go to fantasystorm.com/pick'em to join today's Better Edge contest. Get $10 free simply by signing up. No credit card needed. Just sign up, create your account. They boom, $10 into your account. $3 it costs to enter our Pick'em contest. Come play against myself and James in tonight's game. Till then, everybody, good luck to everyone. We'll talk to you on Monday, right? We'll be back Monday. We'll talk to you Monday, everybody.